in September and October, every episode of my YouTube channel is going to feature one of your songs.
In your skin, I awaken again. It is the agony that I can't dig into my skin with your spade tongue. Let me lick you from within, torturing my every thought with the temptations of your dragon skin. I just want to touch you. I want you on your knees, begging me for my forked tongue to split you.
I couldn't. I love the night. That's the only time I feel really alive.
That's what David wanted.
Blood, I was to find, was a necessity as well.
A vampire in love with a slayer. It's rather poetic. I am the monster that breathing men would kill. I am Dracula.
Good evening, my fellow vampire lovers. The sun is going down, and you know what that means. It's time for me to record another episode of my podcast, The Beautiful Dead. As always, I'm your host, Lena, but not as always. No, this is not the usual podcast episode because it is October. It is time. It is my favorite month. Why, do you ask? Because this is the month when I talk about real stuff and I talk about what I want to talk about. So, last year I did things like the Satanic Panic. I did the Salem Witch Trials. I've been known to talk about all kinds of stuff during October, and so I wanted to do some stuff that I thought people would find interesting. You know, I never know, obviously. Like, I thought people would really love the New Orleans one, but that one did not do so well, so I'm grasping at straws here. But this is what I've decided. So if you have tuned in, you get to know the schedule for October as I have just figured it all out. So today we're going to talk about werewolves. Since last year I gave witches some time, let's talk about werewolves. Next week we're going to talk about paranormal crimes. These are true crime cases with a twist of the paranormal. Yes, we're going to mix my love of all things spooky with my love of true crime. The third week we are going to talk about exorcisms because I'm so intrigued. And talking to Jacob Givens about haunted movies, and we talked a little bit about The Exorcist and how I lived not too far from the Exorcist stairs growing up and how I've seen them and how it was based on a real case. And it got me to thinking about exorcisms. So we're going to talk about exorcisms. And then the last week, which will be Halloween weekend, we are talking about, I mean, technically it's actually going to be the weekend before Halloween, but Halloween falls on a Friday and then the weekend is November. So we're going to save that for something else. So the weekend that I am going to be at Vampa, we are going to do a video on this channel wrapping up October talking about the mother and father of vampires, Vlad Tepes and Elizabeth Bathory. Some of my faves, things I could talk about forever. So this is what we'll be doing in October. What am I doing in October? Well, when you see this video, when it's premiering and I'm chatting with you, I will have just wrapped up Animate Con in Philly. It's the first place that you're going to be able to get Alex physical copy. So hopefully that went well. Hopefully you're following me on Instagram and you got to see pictures from everything. And then the 18th, I will be at Labriola's Winery here in Pittsburgh doing a brand new lecture about the crossover and history of vampires and wine. It's the first place in Pittsburgh that you're going to be able to get your hands on Alex. The 25th, as I said, I will be at Vampa Museum all day doing book signings, but then I will have 2 lecture times. So if you miss the 1 o'clock one, you'll get the 3 o'clock one. Very exciting stuff. And then October 30th, 31st, November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, I will be in my favorite place in the world, the French Quarter of New Orleans, for the Endless Night Vampire Masquerade Ball. I think I got that out right. So make sure you're following me on Instagram so you don't miss all these things. All right, gang, this is serious. I did research. Lots of research. I did research for every episode of October. So I was semi-excited to talk about werewolves, not as excited as I get with vampires. Do you hear Juliet tippity-tapping back and forth, back and forth? She wants to know what I'm up to. Vampires and werewolves cross over a lot. So I thought it's time to give werewolves just a little tip of the hat. We'll talk about their history a little bit, but I did not deep dive the way that I normally do with vampire stuff. But you see I'm wearing my it says Muscle Squad, but it's my Monster Squad tank top. One, because I'm healing a new tattoo, which if you're just listening to the podcast and you're not watching YouTube, you're not going to see it. But 2, because I wanted to have that's the only thing I have with werewolves on it, so I had to wear a tank top. Also, if you're just listening and you're not watching me on YouTube, then you missed a couple episodes in September. So you need to flip to YouTube and watch my Haunted Movies episode with Jacob Givens and my top 10 vampire media with the Vampire Professor. We brought him back. So you're missing out if you're not watching me on YouTube. Just saying. Oh, and thank you to everybody for all the birthday wishes. My birthday was yesterday. I'm recording on the 29th. And I'm just like so honored by all the messages and everything that I got. So thank you everybody so much. I truly believe this is going to be my best year yet. So I'm very excited. And Ren Fair ended yesterday. So I'm back to only 2 jobs, which is nice. So let's get back on track. I've already talked for 8 minutes. I'm sure you just want to talk about werewolves, so let's do it. Let's talk about werewolves. All right, we're going to start, as I always do, with history. Also, everybody, my references will be in a Google Doc that will be linked to the YouTube video and the podcast audio, just so you know that I'm not just like pulling this out of anywhere. There is references. Okay, all right, okay, we're done. History of werewolves. It's likely that the first written account of werewolves was around 2100 BC. That's a long time ago, people. And it was written on clay tablets, and it was this thing called the Epic of Gilgamesh. In it, Ishtar, who was a goddess of war and sex, wanted Gilgamesh as a lover, but he was not into it. And he turned her down. Why did he turn her down? Well, because she had a previous lover who she turned into a wolf when she got tired of him. So Gilgamesh was like, yeah, no, I'm not messing with that crazy. Sometimes crazy is hot. That's way too crazy. So that was our first account of like a man being turned into a wolf. 2100 BC. We're going to jump ahead to good old Greek mythology, because what does not have a Greek mythology tie? I can't think of anything. And this was around 8 AD. So we've hopped ahead a couple thousand years, and now we're after death. And we get the story of King Lycaon, I think is how you say it. Lycaon, King Lycaon. A crude and heartless man who was adored by his people, much like Vlad Tepes, because of his mission. He was going to make the city great again. And so he built this temple to Zeus, and he was like, Zeus, this is an offering to you because I love you and I worship you and I respect you. And Lycaon was like, you know, if we give Zeus enough offerings, then he's going to bless our people again, and our city will start to thrive again. And at first Zeus was like, okay, I like the temple you built. But Lycaon's need to please Zeus got way out of control, and he became very zealous in his worship of Zeus. And through a myriad of circumstances where it kept escalating, he landed on sacrificing visitors to his city that they would then cannibalize. And Zeus was like, hold on, that's nasty. So Zeus went in disguise to this city and presented himself as a visitor to the city, and he was welcomed into the banquet hall, or whatever you called it, and witnessed Lycaon and Lycaon's followers eating human flesh. And Zeus was like, oh hell no. So as punishment, Zeus turned the men into what we know today as werewolves, and they were like sent out into the forest to survive, and they were eating like local passerbys and all that stuff. And so actually the word lycanthrope, which is what I like to call them versus werewolves, I just think it sounds cooler. Lycanthropy, lycanthrope actually came from this story, King Lycaon. That's how we got lycanthrope. There you go. Now we're going to hop ahead a little bit. Another group of people we love to tap into when we talk about the history of creatures and the supernatural and where did they come from. 13th century, a Norse tale. You know, the Norse, the Vikings, they always tell a good tale, and a lot of what we have today we can trace back to, you know, Greek mythology, Persian, or Vikings. They had a tale called the Volsunga Saga, and in this there was a story about a father and a son who would wear the skin of wolves, and these skins would then turn them into wolves, give them characteristic of the wolves, and then they could go out and hunt as wolves. So there's another sort of like werewolf tale. And then the stories continue over the time, right? And the details change here and there, but the overall idea, the overall story sort of stayed the same. Some men somehow had the ability to turn into wolves, or they got turned into wolves by witches or whatever. Pact with the devil was a big one. And there were sightings galore, and much like vampires or witches, it did not take long for the trials to start. Plenty of accusations, plenty of people thrown on trial for being lycanthropes. So one that is mentioned many, many times when you look into werewolves, like the first thing to pop up. In 1589 in Germany, there was a trial held for a man named Peter Stubbe. I'm going to assume is how you say it. Stubbe, Stubbe. And he was a wealthy Protestant farmer, and apparently there were these werewolves attacks that plagued the area, and during one, the werewolf had part of his left paw cut off, and then Peter was seen later with the same injury to the same hand, and that's when he was officially accused. That was a bad day to hurt your hand on the farm, is all I'm saying. So Peter gets called in and tortured, and then during torture he confesses. So he says, I've been practicing black magic since I was 12 years old, and then the devil gave me a girdle that allowed me to transform into a werewolf to murder and cannibalize my victims. Per his confession, he started with farm animals, but then eventually moved to humans. He killed 14 children and 2 pregnant women. Again, we see this with the vampires and the witches a lot too, where it's like, oh, they feed on pregnant women, they feed on fetuses, they feed on children. It's like, why is this always this? I think vulnerable population, or like, what's the most disgusting, shocking thing we can accuse you of so that then we can execute you? And of course, he was executed, ironically, on October 31st in 1589. The accusations and the gossip and the tales and the written stories of lycanthropes would continue, and then what would start to evolve was sort of the way that a person is turned into a werewolf. That's the thing that got changed around the most. And we see this a lot with vampires too, because, right, remember the the vampire professor and I were talking about this, is like, you get, especially in like Romania and that part of the world, it's like, if you're the bastard child of 2 bastard children, then you're born a vampire or a redhead, or if you're born, you know, backwards, whatever. So we see a lot of this in the werewolf lore as well. For a long time, it was either a witch's curse or a pact with the devil. Those were the 2 big ones. I mean, other than like Zeus himself coming down from the mountains, it was witch's curse, pact with the devil. But then what happened? And there was a werewolf movie. So that was another thing I looked into, because you know me, I love movies. I was like, what's the first werewolf movie? So apparently it was in 1913, and it was only like 18 minutes long, and it's called, quite acutely, The Werewolf. That's the name of it. And it's a silent film, and it's a Navajo woman who responds to her husband leaving her as she's like, well, now I'm a witch. So he leaves, and she's like, gets into witchcraft, and she learns witchcraft, and then she teaches her daughter and raises her daughter in witchcraft. And then as the girl grows, the girl then starts turning these settlers, these invading settlers, into werewolves as punishment. So that was the first werewolf film. So like I said, witch's curse, pact with the devil, those were the 2 big ones. Well, then we got a big change. And it happened in a movie, and I'm going to give you a second to see if you could figure out which one. So it was 1935. 1935, we got Werewolf of London. It was the first feature-length film about a werewolf, brought to us by Universal. Same people that brought us all the monsters. And in this one, it was the first time where we saw lycanthropy being transmitted through a bite. It was the first time we saw that. And it's the first time that we saw the full moon triggering the werewolf transformation. And I think in this one, I have seen it, but if I can remember correctly, he's some kind of scientist. And he like goes out in the rainforest or somewhere and is attacked by a giant wolf and bit. And then he comes back to London and starts the transformation process. Then, not long after that, so as we know, 31, we got Bela as Dracula. And then 35, we get Werewolf of London. And then in 1941, we got the big one. This is the one I always remembered. And it was The Wolfman with Lon Chaney, Claude Rains, and Bela Lugosi. That's why I watched it, because Bela was in it. And again, we see our lead character is bitten by a werewolf and now is cursed to change. But the piece that gets added in this one is using silver to kill the werewolf. That is the first time that we get to see that. So the way that we've talked about, like, Nosferatu in the 20s was the first time we saw vampires die by the sun. This in 1941 is the first time that we see a werewolf die by silver. I'm trying to remember, what did Bela play in this movie? I think a gypsy. I think he was a Romany person, and I don't remember if he was the werewolf or he told him about the werewolf curse, but I know that was like Bella's role, and that was why I watched it. So, since this movie, it's been 70 years, right? And we have seen so many werewolf movies, TV shows, books, all that stuff, right? Now, I'm not quite as well versed in werewolves. I mean, I'm not even close to being as well versed in werewolves as I am vampires. That being said, I'd like to transition from history, and I want to talk about my opinion of the top 8, in no particular order, the top 8 werewolf movies that I think are the best. And it is a mix of the best story, the best lore, and the best transformations. Because if you want my humble opinion, the werewolf movie boils down to the transformation. If you mess up the transformation, it's really hard to recover from that when that's your whole thing, right? The monster reveal has to be good. So, in no particular order, let's go. And again, YouTube, I don't know how many clips I'll be able to share, but I'm gonna try. So hopefully you get to see it. But if you don't see any clips, it's because they got axed. All right, number 1, let's take a sip. Classic. An American Werewolf in London, 1981. I just introduced my son to this one. Personally, I think it's the best. Rick Baker would actually win an Oscar for best makeup on this one. And it's well earned, I will tell you. So Landis, I guess, had said to him that his picture was like demonic hellhound, which, what a great description, right? It's like demonic hellhound. And then Baker takes that and he runs with it. Apparently, it took him months to plan this transformation, and it took them a whole week just to shoot the transformation. It was all practical effects with different sized hands and feet and head that would be changed out throughout the stretching and shifting that we see. And I know like the top half of the actors like kind of like locked down, and then the bottom half is all practical effects. I think it's a 1,000% worth it. I'm sure it was a long week for those people, but it is still, to this day, one of the best werewolf transformations I have ever seen. I love the story. It's fun. It's like the right level of cheesy. I just love it. And my son said one day he wants to cosplay one of the guys from there. Also, I've met both of those guys. Just the nicest guys. If you ever have the chance, meet them. Number 2, Ginger Snaps. Still love this one. I'm probably going to rewatch it here soon because it's Halloween time and it's on my rotation. This one was a mix of practical and special effects because obviously it's later now. I think we're in the early 2000s. The movie gives us the slow turn. So anyone who's familiar with this podcast knows one of the things I love in vampire films is when the bite happens and then we watch them slowly turn over a matter of days. So this was really big in the 80s. It's like they start to become sort of adverse to the sun, and then they start to crave raw meat, and then they start to like, it's that slow transition, and that's what we get in Ginger Snaps. Those subtle changes that become more and more obvious over time. In this movie, first we see like the attitude, then we see the eyes, the nails, then there's like a tail, there's facial restructuring, like when she has those pronounced almond eyes, so freaking cool. And then we get the huge turn. While this doesn't have all like the all practical effects, which we get in the 80s that I think are so much fun, this is still one of my favorite werewolf films. It's one that I will always put on. Number 3, 1984, Silver Bullet.
I gotta talk to you.
You won't let go of it, will you?
I saw what I saw.
Psychotics are more active when the moon is full. And this guy's a psycho. When they catch him, you're gonna find out he's just as human as you and me. You have got to get this idea out of your head. There are no such things as werewolves.
The Bible tells us to fear the terror of the beast.
I am scared to death.
What are we gonna do? I think I know. I want you to turn this into a silver bullet.
Tech, you're gonna shoot a 44 bullet at anyway. Ain't not a silver.
How about a werewolf?
The moon is full. You better watch it.
I think he's going to come after me.
Are you ready?
You see how all things serve the will and the mind of God. You see? You meddling little...
Help me, please! He's out there! I saw him!
This is a Stephen King story, and this has Corey Haim and Gary Busey. It's that quintessential 80s, like, kid versus monster idea. We did it so much in the 80s. The villain / werewolf in human form and werewolf, I think in human form was actually so much scarier. This guy was so creepy. Everett McGill, right, was his name. Oh, he was so creepy. And for the transformations in this one, the parts that were changed out throughout were latex masks that had animatronic mechanisms underneath. So the whole thing was like being operated by people, but Everett McGill was in the costume so that he could still act. They still wanted him acting in the suit. And then there was other people controlling the animatronics. And then if you guys know what I'm talking about when I say the church transformation, the big church transformation took 30 to 40 makeup artists to pull off. Very cool. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the times where Stephen King did not bungle the ending, and it's so much fun and I love it. And it's one of those that also, like, if it's on, I'll sit down and watch it. Yeah, and I'll never forget the scene with the dad who was like looking for his missing son, and he's like, the sheriff walks, is it the sheriff that walks up with like the kite that's covered in blood, and the dad's reaction, oh god, that stuck with me. All right, number 4, and we actually have Tony from Hack the Movies to thank for this one.
A house on the edge of the woods.
Out here it's safe and peaceful.
A family alone.
Mom,
Yes, sweetheart?
can you leave the door open a crack?
A favorite uncle who needed their help.
Things haven't been going so good for me since I got back, sis.
You could come stay with us.
But when they invited him in,
I think I better keep my eye on you.
they let in something they could never imagine or ever escape.
What's wrong with you?
Bad Moon. It doesn't have to be Halloween to be this scary.
Because somehow I missed it when it came out in 1996, and he's the one that's like, you have to watch it. So I was even texting him as I was watching it, and that is Bad Moon. Bad Moon, 1996. This one had me on the edge of my seat. I was like really tense watching the whole thing, and it's because I was so afraid of what was going to happen to the dog. It was very, very stressful. So the dog is like the hero in this film, and he's trying to protect his family from the werewolf, and it's so tense and agonizing and anxiety producing. I will say the transformation is not good, you guys. It's really not good, which is such a shame. It starts out fine. He like gets the fangs and he gets the contacts, which is how it normally starts, but then he has this like 3-minute monologue while he's supposed to be shifting, and it's like the typical villain's monologue where he explains everything, and then when it happens in this sequence that almost looks like stop motion. It's not a good transformation, but
Stupid bitch.
the story, the acting, the dog, the premise, I was so locked in that it definitely earned a spot. And I feel like people need to watch it just to experience it. But I was very stressed about the dog the entire time. All right, number 5. No shock to anybody. The Howling. Oh man, what a classic. What a classic. So originally Baker was supposed to do this. He was like gonna do this movie, and then his friend Landis was like, oh well, American Werewolf in London just got greenlit, and like we've been talking about this, you have to do it. So Baker actually left someone that he trusted named Rob Bowden, who acted as the head makeup guy, and so Baker was just kind of available as a consultant if this protege, needed it. But what's crazy is like Baker would watch the film and it would kind of change the way he looked at his peer, and he said suddenly he went from like a friend to like a competitor. Like this is now somebody that I need to compete with, because he's obviously very, very good. And he said that, I think he was talking to Fangoria. So I always thought that was really interesting. For the transformation, they used air bladders under the prosthetics and then fur glued to arms and nails and contacts. And the result, I think, is one of the best transformations I've ever watched. And I'll never forget, it was probably one of those early times where I was like, oh, going out to a cabin in the middle of the woods, probably not a good idea. So that was the first time I saw something like that. All right, number 6, Trick or Treat. Trick or Treat. This is one of those movies I watch every single Halloween season. I love Trick or Treat. This werewolf scene is so fun because it's a whole pack turning all at one time, which I think is so cool. And I even used that idea in one of my books with like a mass turning, because the idea of that, I couldn't take my eyes off of it. Sweet Dreams is playing in the background. All the girls like start to strip, and I'm like, what am I watching? And then they start pulling their human skin off to reveal the wolf underneath. So instead of this like transition, it's like they're ripping their human clothing. Like, it's so good. And I know like in the beginning it's mostly just contacts and fangs, and then they probably switch to like special effects. But I still love this one, and I'm not apologizing for it. I absolutely love this scene. I love that movie, and I love this scene. And I'm just realizing that I said 8 movies, but I actually meant 7. Sorry. I could not come up with an 8th one. There's just not a lot of werewolf stuff that gets me like really excited that I really love. So originally I wanted to do 10, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'll do 8. And then I remember I was just like, I cannot think of an 8th one. Sorry. You guys tell me what's one I should add. Number 7, you may not have heard of. It's pretty recent. I stumbled across it. It came out in 2021. I stumbled across it, as I usually do with these new movies, on Amazon Prime. It was one of those things that was like, you should watch this. And I'm like, whatever, I'll just put it on in the background. And then I was locked in. And it is called Werewolves Within.
You look like you just seen a corpse.
Well, the roads are effed, and something's wrong with the generator.
Which generator?
All of them.
Can't get on the internet!
Also, there's a dead body under your porch.
Holy
Probably a wolf.
What are you, like a wolf detective now, Marcus?
Who knows? Who? When? Who's gonna kill next?
I think we can all agree that it's unsafe outside, and there's safety in numbers. Out of curiosity, who is packing? Well, we're having a good old-fashioned sleepover.
With guns, though.
With guns, yes.
Everything about this predator is unorthodox. It's not human. It's not canine. It's one of them.
One of what?
A lycanthrope.
A what?
Lycanthrope.
A werewolf.
How did it gotten in here? How did they get out?
Who says it got out?
Maybe.
I'm a werewolf.
Maybe you're a werewolf. Maybe you're a werewolf. You're a werewolf. You're a werewolf. You're a werewolf. Maybe we're all werewolves.
Are we really in a Mexican standoff right now?
Baby, don't say Mexican. Just stand up.
But it's about this forest ranger who gets an assignment in this little tiny town that is sort of like got a whole bunch of characters. Everybody's kind of set in their ways. They're like not too psyched about an outside person coming in. And then very quickly, I think like his first day of assignment, people start to die one by one. And it becomes clear that there's a werewolf in the midst. And so you have to figure out who's the werewolf. I chuckled probably the whole time. There's a few times I laughed out loud. It's very much like an ensemble piece where everybody just plays their part perfectly. I also did not guess who the culprit was, which is actually pretty rare for me. I usually figure it out pretty quickly. Did not see this one coming. The transformation looks mostly like just makeup and then special effects and then CGI, which is like kind of a bummer. And it happens really fast though, which we don't normally with a werewolf transformation is very drawn out. The flip happens real fast, and that's scary to me. I'm like, oh God, because with the slower transformations, you get the time to be like, oh shit, and start running. But this transformation was so fast that you probably wouldn't have time. You wouldn't have time. Once you realize that's a werewolf, too late. They're probably already eating you. So highly recommend this one. Horror comedy, very fun, very funny. I think it's still free on Amazon Prime, so definitely go check it out. So there is one more thing werewolf related that I wanted to talk about. We all know where my heart lies, okay? We all know this. I can't talk about werewolves without bringing vampires into it. I've already done it a few times, but now I want to like really do it. Let's do it. Let's dive headfirst in, unapologetically. I want to talk about, in my opinion, the best werewolf vampire rivalries, because I love a good vampire werewolf standoff, or like, you know, there's some kind of backstory between the two and for why don't they get along and what's going on here. I'm here for it. I want to talk about it. So let's go. Now, I looked at this objectively because we know what side I naturally want to lean towards. But I'm going to be objective in this one. To my point, I think you're all going to be surprised by this first one, but I think it deserves a mention. So I'm going to say it really fast because it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. I have to mention Twilight.
Well, I want to know.
Okay, did you know Quileutes are supposedly descended from wolves?
What? Like wolves?
Yeah.
Like real wolves?
Well, that's the legend of our tribe.
Okay. So what's the story about the Cullens?
Well, they're supposedly descended from this, like, enemy clan. My great-grandfather, the chief, found them hunting on our land. But they claimed to be something different, so we made a treaty with them. If they promised to stay off Quileute lands, then we wouldn't expose what they really were to the pale faces.
I thought they just moved here.
Or just moved back.
What are they really?
It's just a story, Bella. Come on, let's go.
I have to mention Twilight. Yes, I hate those movies. But the story behind the werewolf-vampire pact, like between the native people and the vampires, and the way like you don't come on our reservation and we won't tell everybody what you are, and it's all copacetic. I love that. I loved that idea. The tension between the wolves and the vampires in those first couple of movies is so good. It is the one thing, that one string that kind of pulls the whole thing together. And then having them join forces at the end to combat a common enemy. It's my favorite way for the wolf-vampire rivalry trope to play out. So I have to give a little bit of respect to the Twilight universe, because there is that little piece of it where I was like, okay, that's good. I like that. I like how that the backstory is there, and I like the pact, and I like the way that all plays out, and I like that tension in the beginning. Like, Cullens are not supposed to be on this land. Okay, so now I said it, I can move on. Blah. All right, let's move on to some better ones. Underworld.
The war itself had become more perilous. The weapons had evolved. But our orders remained the same. Hunt them down and kill them off, one by one.
They are the immortal damned. One family lusting for power and wealth.
The chain has never been broken, not in 14 centuries.
Another driven by revenge.
Soon we'll defeat the vampires on their own ground.
Do you see this human? He's attractive. I can't be positive, but I'm beginning to think the lichens are following him.
Hello, Michael.
Why are they after you? Who are you people? You're in the middle of a war that's been raging for the better part of 1,000 years. A blood feud between vampires and lichens. Werewolves.
Now, a decision must be made.
Why did you bring him here? He saved my life.
Between an oath sworn centuries ago.
A human. He's not a human at all. He's a lichen.
And the power
There can be no such union.
greater than vengeance.
You'll be lucky if I can convince the Kaiser to spare your life. Absolution will be yours the moment you kill Michael.
underworld.
I mean, that's the whole premise of Underworld, right? So I love the idea that the vampires have these specially trained warriors. And their entire purpose is to fight a war with the Lycans. That's their whole thing. They go out every night on patrol to make sure that there are no Lycans out there causing problems that they need to take care of. Love that. And at first, it's so clear that the Lycans are the problem, right? Right? Yeah. But over the course of the 5 films, we learn a lot about the origins of the war, where the vampires played a part. We get vampire wolf hybrids, which I have mixed feelings about. You know, we see that also in like the Vampire Diaries. It's sort of like Romeo and Juliet, but with supernatural creatures, and lots of action and lots of backstabbing. But I'm not going to say anymore. You know why? Why, Lena? Because in December, I'm doing every single Underworld movie. So the same way I did Subspecies, we are going to do Underworld. So the last weekend of November is the first Underworld. And then every weekend in December is the subsequent movies. So I'm not going to say anything else about Underworld, but just know that that is on my list of one of my favorite vampire werewolf rivalries. All right. One that I will be shocked if you know, even though I have done it on this podcast, but a lot of you are new, and that is The Howling, and I believe it's number 6, The Freaks.
Howling 6, The Freaks.
The world will look at you with awe. As long as you're with me, they'll never again call you freak.
Step right up for the most bizarre carnival ever staged.
Welcome. Allow me to be your guide.
But here is the most astonishing.
Your guest has a little secret.
The most deadly.
Stand back. He's dangerous.
The most terrifying exhibit of all.
I'm the new entertainment.
Is this God's will to put a man on display like some sort of animal?
We are not talking about a man.
He tore her limb from limb.
You can't deny your true nature.
You get this thing taken care of. Find out whoever or whatever is to blame. Kill it, arrest it. I don't care which.
You see the devil? You shoot him. Satan's work shall not go unpunished.
The series renters are howling for returns with its most spectacular edition ever. Howling 6, The Freaks.
This is one of those movies that is a guilty pleasure of mine. It is so bad that it is amazing. It is from the 90s, and we all know how much I love cheesy 90s movies. And this is a werewolf vampire showdown where I can't help but root for the wolf, which is very, very rare for me. Now, part of it is because it was played by Brendan Hughes, who I loved in the 90s. I had such a crush on him. And he played Vlad in To Die For and To Die For 2. And he was also in Return to Horror High, which is like one of my favorite movies. So, of course, I loved him. He's so cute. And he's like so perfect as the boy next door. He plays the wolf. And then Bruce Payne, who you guys, I'm sure know if you know 90s horror. He played the Warlock in the third Warlock film. He is the bad guy in this one, and he's such a good bad guy. And his name is Harker, by the way. A little tip of the hat to Dracula. He travels from town to town as part of this carnival to feast on unsuspecting, ignorant townfolk. But this time he's picked the wrong town because sweet Ian, who happens to be a lycanthrope, saves the day. And I won't say anything because I did a whole video on this one, so I just had to mention it in the wolf versus vampire section, but you can go watch the whole thing if you want. Speaking of cheesy movies that I unapologetically adore, Van Helsing. I love it. With Hugh Jackman, I love it. It's another great one in this category. In this, a Romany brother and sister are the last of their line, and they're also hunters. But when a mission goes wrong, Anna's brother is turned into a lycanthrope, and she is left alone to fight Count Dracula himself until she is joined by the heroic Van Helsing, who also, spoiler alert, culminates with turning into a werewolf, and we get a big werewolf versus Dracula battle.
You are too late, my friend. My children live.
Then the only way to kill them is to kill you.
Correct. So be it. One. No. This cannot be. We are both part of the same great game, Gabriel. But we need not find ourselves on opposite sides of the board.
And I love that thing. I don't care. I will defend. I will die on this hill. I love this movie. I love the brides. I love Dracula. I love the vampire masquerade ball in this scene. And someday I want to cosplay one of the brides so bad. I love it. I love the battle. I get it. The vampires are the bad guys in this one. I should not root for it, but I love this movie. And the fact that one of the brides, one of the women who plays one of the brides, and the guy who played Dracula fell in love on this movie, and they're still together. So I don't care. I love this movie. And another one I want to talk about, which I think is by far the greatest depiction of vampire versus werewolf rivalries, and I don't think any of you will be surprised if you've watched my previous episodes, What We Do in the Shadows. What We Do in the Shadows, in my opinion, is the best depiction of a strained relationship between werewolf and vampire in an area, in a local area. This movie introduces us to it when the group of vampires and a group of werewolves are like just passing each other in the street, and they start shit talking, and then they're like, we get these iconic lines, and they're just like throwing insults at each other. And then later we get a werewolf who's distracted by a vampire throwing a squeaky toy, and he like jumps off a roof after the squeaky toy. I'm telling you, it makes me laugh no matter how many times I've watched it. But the best is that at the end, one of the human friends of the vampires gets turned into a lycanthrope. And so now they like have to kind of start to get along with each other because their friend is a werewolf. And so they have to figure out like how to heal this broken relationship. I love this movie so much. I might go watch it after this. I need to watch it again.
There'll be no hassle here.
Well, let it stay that way. Keep chaining yourselves up. Guys, where's your tracksuit pants?
It was washing night. My missus couldn't wash them because there was too much blood in them, so...
Your legs expand, they grow into the tracksuit.
Oh.
Those jeans are going to rip completely. You've lost all those trousers, guys. Declan, that tree's far too thin. Look at it, it's like a branch. You know how big you get when you transform? That's the wrong tree for you.
Anton,
Oh, no, you've forgotten the combination. Why did you get a combination lock?
I lost my key last time.
Okay, well, it's probably 4 zeros. That's the factory setting, is it? Fuck off to a tree.
Hey, werewolves, not swearwolves.
Yeah, I know.
Werewolves,
Well,
not
on
swearwolves.
transformation nights, it's all right? I'm getting stressed out.
I was just reminding you.
Stop talking and chain yourself up, you dickhead. Honestly, we're transforming.
All right, we'll keep walking.
Yeah, keep walking.
Well, we're walking.
By the way, I find that offensive. Is that fur? Oh, for crying out loud. Don't look at the fur, everyone. Get back to your trees, okay?
That's disgusting, man.
You're wearing
Hands on.
food.
Declan!
Hands on. It's not real.
Oh, shit! Right. Honestly, get out of here. Take your humans. That guy in the bow tie, he's going to go first. Those camel crews. Get out of here. Quick. Take all your clothes off that you want to keep, everyone. Get that army surplus jacket off. You've only just bought that, Nathan. Get the camera out of my face! Let's go. Come on. Run, Stu, run. Go. Go, let's go. Shit! I got one!
But there it is, you guys. A quick 40-minute October episode to kick off October. I wanted to do a monster that's different than the usual. Is there anything that I didn't talk about in regards to werewolves that you wish I had? Like, do you want me to cover other monsters? Are you having fun with this? Did you totally hate it? Let me know. Let me know. October is fun for me because I get to just take a step away and just talk about whatever I want to talk about before I have to lock back in on vampires. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if there was something I didn't mention that you feel like I should have. I will tell you that a little more of my research is going to pop up in the next week's episode, which, reminder, come back next week. We're going to talk about paranormal crimes. But thank you so much for joining. Happy October. Happy spooky season. As always, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I wish you wicked hugs and bloody kisses. Good evening.